You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers and other important people from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. Well, this week I'm happy to welcome to the show once again for the first time since 2021, New York State Assemblywoman Taylor Darling, who represents the 18th District here on Long Island. Ms. Darling is also facing off against Nassau County Legislator Siela Bynoe, who will be facing off for the Democratic nomination in the 6th Senate District. The primary is happening on June 25th. Well, welcome back to this week's Long Island News.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here on 90.3. We love Nassau Community College.
That's great. This is the best kept secret on Long Island.
It really is. It's beautiful down here. I mean, 3 years has gone by in the blink of an eye, but I do remember being parked outside of the building. I just don't remember how great it was inside of here, but you guys do a really great job with your studio.
Thank you very much. That's Sean Novat running the show here.
Okay.
Okay, well, we got like a half an hour.
Okay.
There's a lot of things to talk about, but I guess one of the first things, since this is now, tell us about your decision to run for state senate.
Well, I'll tell you the story in a condensed version. So we have worked tirelessly, and by we, I mean my team and I, Team Excellence. I call them Team Excellence because our platform is Excellence for the 18th. That is the platform that we've run on since 2018, and we developed that platform by knocking doors and listening to our potential constituents and what it was that they needed, what it was they desired, and we started to see a pattern and a theme develop, which was they wanted excellent standards. They worked hard to move to Long Island. Some of them were from Long Island, and they just wanted their community to reflect that. And so we said, you know what, let's create our platform around that. We'll have our 3 pillars, which are excellent education and training for all, community beautification, and health is wealth. So almost everything we do legislatively with funding runs through at least one or all of those pillars. So that's how we've stayed organized. So we had some really lofty goals. And around May of 2023, we really came to a great point of accomplishing and delivering on all those goals. So I told my team, who has worked 7 days a week, off and on for 5 years, we're going to take a break. We're going to breathe. We're going to get back into the community and figure out what our next steps will be. But we get to breathe a little bit because we've delivered. To the day I said that, we're tapped on the shoulder to consider a run for CD4, Congressional District 4. And I said, whoa. Let me think about that, because there's opportunity in considering opportunities, right? So we thought about it, and I kind of said, I still want to be local, and I know how inconsistently we've been served locally. So I was a little hesitant, but as I was pondering it, I said, let me start going to conventions since I'm being considered on the national level. We attend the Democratic Legislative, I don't know what the CC stands for, but DLCC convention in Vermont. And as I'm checking in, opening the door to my hotel room, my friend and colleague, Senator Kevin Thomas, calls me to say, I am not running for re-election in the 6th Senate District. So I was like, okay. And then he goes, I'll be running for CD4. So I'm like, yes, I don't have to run for CD4 yet. But I said, who's going to run for the Senate seat? And that was what led us to say, who's best positioned to make sure we don't lose $1, 1 minute, one resource from Long Island as we are fighting with the rest of the state to really recoup a lot of the taxes that we pay so we can have reinvestments in our community. And we don't want to chance that. So I can guide someone on how to be an effective assembly member because I've been that. Right. I cannot guide someone on how to be an effective senator. And what my team feared was having to do 2 jobs, in that space. So we said, we're ready. We're ready to make the leap and the plunge, and we're called to it, and we answered the call. So
very cool.
We're running now.
Okay. Newsday reported now that Ms. Bynoe collected about 30% more signatures in the petition to run over you. Mm-hmm. You have any response to that? Or
I do. We handled our petitions ourselves, and other people walked her petitions. So we were really proud of what we were able to accomplish. And,
You're right down there in the trenches, right?
Yes, right there in the trenches, yes.
Now, you've also been outspoken about or on the crackdown for illegal cannabis sales. What's the latest on that issue?
We're standing firm and strong with that in the Assembly, working and being a part of that historical moment where we passed a law to legalize cannabis for adult use in a great sweeping effort to decriminalize cannabis in this state. I mean, it was probably one of the most powerful moments of my life. I know my colleague, our majority leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes, is a hero, a champion in that realm. And we know how many communities have been destroyed, how many families have been destroyed because of, the war on drugs and the criminalization of marijuana. So to be a part of that process where we were able to pass this law and say, you know what we're going to do, we cannot change the past, but we can create an agency and create a space for the people in the communities that have been ravaged by the criminalization of cannabis to now have a space to become entrepreneurs and make a living and build business, build generational wealth with the very thing that, tore our families and communities apart. And what we're seeing is that there's some not great players in this industry where they're like, oh, if it's legal, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just sell this in my store. I'll sell that in my store. So, understanding that you need the state to be able to legally sell anything in this state, especially tobacco, beer, wine, lotto. Some of my colleagues got together and they said, we will definitely find a way to strongly deter individuals who are doing this, because we do not know what products you're selling. There have been so many incidents of children and people becoming sick. There are additives, there can be mold on different things. And I like regulation because I want people to feel just as confident when they enter a liquor store that if they're buying Tito's, someone checked to make sure that was vodka and it was Tito's. Like, we don't want people just consuming anything. And we definitely don't want the communities that we worked hard to repair to be left out of a conversation or to be left out of opportunities that we worked hard to create for them. And when we have these bad players who are going to sell illicit cannabis, you're working to unravel a lot of what we're doing.
But part of the cannabis law also includes people can grow their own, a certain amount of it anyway. You got a problem there because can I give some to my neighbor? That's a good point. I'm not certain about that, so I will not comment on that. Right.
But that's a good point. And giving is not selling. You know what I mean? Giving is not selling. Right. So, but even around that, since it's legal, like I can gift you a bottle of wine right now if I wanted to, and you were over the age of 21. Yeah. So giving is not, hey, secretly selling. And I've seen these shops, and there are communities where they are inundated with it, with these shops.
Let's go back to you got people that got involved in this. I remember we had discussions with the county executive Laura Curran when she was in, and people have been smoking marijuana on Long Island for close to and probably longer than 100 years.
I imagine indigenous people too.
Exactly. So when they came, it just seemed a little disingenuous, I guess. Pot became legal, and all of a sudden, anybody selling pot on the street corner, they were selling you poison, and oh my God, you'll never know. But the evidence says no. People. This has been an industry, certainly unregulated, and but everybody's been pretty happy with the way it ran.
That's a good point, and I hear that happiness is a symptom or a benefit of cannabis use. But
but also in the same vein, happiness is what this whole thing is based on. Yeah. And I don't mean marijuana. I'm talking about the federal government. What does it say? The government should be helping us to pursue happiness.
Yes,
that is the bottom line.
Yes.
When people ask me who to vote for, I tell them, you know what? I quote Mr. Rogers. He said, look for the helpers.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. I have that on my page. I just started following Mr. Rogers' page. The helpers are everywhere. That's what his mother said. His mother said that to him when he was stressed out about the news. And she said, in every tragic story, you look for the helpers because it gives us opportunity to help others. And that's what public service is about to me. But you make a good point that people have been purchasing it. But now I think the biggest issue is now they're shipping a lot of products in from other states to sell.
Oh, and that happened long before it became legal.
It did, yeah. So you're seeing like gummies, you're seeing all these things, you're seeing potentially packaging marketed to children. Mm-hmm. This is legal for adult use, and these are regulated products.
Right.
So, because you're also seeing with the unregulated products, the synthetic marijuana. And
I've seen some strange things in like a gas station rest stops. And
exactly. And then
I never saw that in my life.
Never.
Bath salts. And
let's talk about the F word, fentanyl.
Really?
With the potency of fentanyl, anyone who would touch anything that is not regulated, they are very brave, because people are lacing things with everything to keep their customers coming back, and sometimes they offshoot it, and we don't want those. We don't want that happening in the state of New York. Protecting New Yorkers, the 20 plus million of them, is our very first priority as legislators. We want to protect you, because guess what? If everyone's sick and dying, you don't have anyone. You don't have a contingency. You don't have a constituency. Excuse me.
That was the logic of the dealer, though, to say, I don't want to kill my customers.
Yeah, but a lot of them do.
Well, I think inadvertently.
Yeah.
we got a supply of fentanyl from China that was 100 times what the normal was. So when it got plugged into the local drug scene, they had no idea they were dealing with another substance, and they just mixed it the way they normally do. And that stuff went out in the street and people started dying. Yeah,
because they're not testing it. And that's where regulation comes in. You're testing the batches. So
now here's a question. If I do buy a product, let's say I buy a product from a local, and it does wig me out and flips me out, and it turns out it's bad, what's my recourse?
That is a very good question. And I would say the first thought that came to my mind would be contacting the Attorney General. We have an incredible Attorney General here in New York State, and she is very passionate about protecting New Yorkers, their rights, anything that is even remotely considered predatory and dangerous to us. Right. She's usually my first line of defense.
I think there's think about this. You have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. Did you read before you signed on the bottom line and said, okay, I'm going to, did you read all of the disclaimer for owning that phone? Exactly. Most people don't.
Oh, sir.
So in most of, my experience now is in most things that are for the public, if I buy a product from a company, I've already agreed that I won't take them to court.
Wow.
That I will go to see an arbitrator of their choosing. Mm-hmm. So as a legislator or where did our rights go?
That's a good question. And and it's an even better question.
And that's across the board.
That is across the board. And I think that what my parents beat into my head was read anything you sign.
I know, but it makes sense to not read it.
Yes.
First of all, it's almost not in English. And there's another issue.
I say that about our laws all the time.
I wanted to ask you that same question.
I say that about our laws all the time. When I came in as a civilian who did not attend law school, I would go straight to the justifications. And again, I went to college at 16, I'm practically a doctor right now, but there are a lot of words where I'm like, do we want the public to be a part of it? Do we want them to know what's going on or not? Because,
not.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but we need to make the laws comprehensible for everyone.
When you're wielding the law, it's a good point. And the people that you're wielding it on or over, it's a good thing if they don't know what it is.
It really is. Keeping the sheets over our eyes.
Yeah. When it became evident to me when we got right to work laws in Michigan, they all said the right to work. And people said, wow, what a great law. And they didn't read the fine print. It was the right to work for no overtime, very little pay, no health care. It was the right to work for nothing.
Wow.
Now, laws, to me, what is that? That's, I don't know, trying to fake people out.
Yes, it seems a little bait and switchy. And that's why I love our labor unions. I came from the private sector, and to know what I had to endure in this time period, even after all the work labor unions have done, I encourage everyone to work, if not for the government, make sure you're working.
And the work never stops.
The labor union, no.
It's like you can't say we had a victory. Let's sit back and
no.
No. You got to move on to the next one.
No, and that's what I say. All these years we've been fighting, and there's still players who try to take advantage of our hardworking New Yorkers, and it is beyond me. So I just want to recognize all of our labor unions. Thank you for the fights.
Yeah.
I'm a champion in a lot of them, and we still, like you said, the fights don't stop.
Yeah, no. There was an issue that came up. I was watching a show on this past weekend. 60 Minutes did an investigation about children who were in foster care And many of them are on Social Security disability benefits or Social Security benefits. And the states have been taking that money as reimbursement for their having been in foster care.
Really?
It's across the United States. And nobody has seen this sleight of hand. But this is how the state makes up whatever losses it perceives it has. One kid was due $72,000 that they took away from him.
Wow.
And they put up kid after kid after kid that got none of this money. In a related story, a lady in the foster care system, I believe, was just arrested for kids were given a debit card with $350 on it when they were let go from the foster. Because at 18, you're done. And they put you on the street. There's no, okay, we're going to graduate to another building or another set of services or another group of people. No, you're just out there. And then, of course, we all reel when we see homeless people. But we're creating them. And healthcare is another big one.
Huge.
You know, I got kind of mad at Northwell Health's TV commercial one day when they said that there's no reason for you not to go see a doctor because we have more locations on Long Island than we ever have. And my response was, does bankruptcy ring a bell to you guys? The number is something like 70% of foreclosures on Long Island are directly due to medical bills.
Yeah, medical bills. They can.
What the hell are we doing?
Health issues can definitely disturb a family and a generation.
And I thought of the same thing. It's the same idea. A foster kid didn't pick that life. He wound up in it. But he's being penalized just circumstances.
Definitely.
Healthcare, same thing. Nobody wants cancer.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have to decide that you're going to live in a house or live on the street.
Yeah.
And, you know.
We definitely have some big fixes that we need to continue to work on. And I look forward to us having, you know, a really strong partnership with our federal colleagues as well, because a lot of this it's state and federal that really shape our local government. They really allow us to determine how we're going to distribute resources. First, give us the resources, right, and determine how we're going to distribute the resources in a sustainable way that's going to actually, you know, impact the areas and the communities we want to impact. So I was appointed the chairwoman of foster care in the state of New York, and at first I really didn't understand that choice, but I have learned so much about foster care, and you are 100% right. After these beautiful children turn 18, after for some of them dealing with some really adverse childhood experiences, enough to traumatize the strongest adult, you know, we're looking at, you know, what are we doing to prepare them to sustain themselves? And not even just sustain. We want you to have an amazing quality of life. If no one else should have an amazing quality of life, we want you to have an amazing quality of life. And I will say there are a lot of great organizations on the ground that are fighting to ensure that, one, we are paying our foster care workers, you know, I say a New York-alistic wage, because what you want in those situations is, you know, cohesive care. You want a continuity of care, and you can't have that when there's high turnover, because the individuals who are passionate about serving this population, our foster care children, our children and families that are in the foster care system, you know, they have to be able to provide for their families as well. And that turnover is very, very scary. I feel like what we've done for human service workers, just kind of putting a pause on any advancement for them, especially economically, it is really sad. And we have not even seen the brunt of it. Like our home healthcare workers, most of us are going to rely on a home healthcare worker at some point. And we're dealing with transportation barriers. We're dealing with low pay. But again, you look at any industry where, you know, it's predominantly women and predominantly women of color, you are going to see some really sad disparities. And it's almost like not only can you not build wealth, you can't live. And you're working, you know, 2-3 shifts. And some people are spending their whole check pretty much just to get back and forth to work, because there are parts of Long Island that are not accessible by train and bus. So you have people who are traveling west to come back up east. And a lot of them live in my district. So between foster care, home care health workers, I do a lot of work with you know, human service workers who are my favorite. That we need people who are going to be passionate trained.
People who care.
Who care, just care. And they should not be penalized.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be thinking about having to have 3 or 4 jobs or saying, hey, I could go work at Target and do better financially than if I'm here on the ground caring. And because that's exactly what it is that we need. Yeah. And for foster care, we need to make sure that no one's falling off of a cliff. I don't want anyone falling off of a cliff in New York. We have a lot of resources in New York, and I think that we are working to, be better stewards. So again, we have sustainable solutions that are going to impact where we need them to impact.
Processes.
Yes, processes. You just build it in. But if we say, let's put a pause on this for 20 years, guess what? When you press play, you're going to be very outdated with everything that these individuals should have. And we pay for it one way or another. Like you said, we can pay what we need to pay up front, or we'll be paying triple later because we didn't handle that situation.
That's very true. That's where kick the can down the road.
Exactly.
Last week I interviewed Jay Jacobs, and we talked. He brought it up, and I was thrilled that he did. The idea of unintended consequences when laws are passed.
Yes, you fix one problem and create 7 more.
Right, and he said it. He goes, we should really have a committee to review when a law is finished. Okay, you passed it. All right, now let's sit down and look at and make a Venn chart or a Venn diagram of all the things that could occur because this became a law.
That's brilliant, and that's why he's the chairman. I think that's really brilliant.
Yeah,
he's right, because if I've learned nothing from entering this world, it's we solve one problem and create a bunch. But I'll tell you why we do that. Mm-hmm. It's political. Administrations change every day. So when you have a chance to, pass a bill that say you've been working on for a very long time, and you fixate on the positive effects, there really is a sense of urgency. Remember, we're only in office 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a sense of urgency, like, okay, the stars align, pass it. And we'll amend later. And, sometimes that's worked for us, and other times that hasn't, and that's both sides of the aisle, but there's so much politics in politics, so it gets in the way sometimes,
politics than business,
because even having, say we do have that committee, time, it's time, and time is really of the essence, because you could have one election cycle and now that administration may not, view a really important cause in your community as anything that they should be paying attention to. So it creates this sense of urgency. And when you're passing laws, the last thing you want is a sense of urgency over your head.
We don't want it too quick. We want it right.
We want it right. There you go. We want to get it right. Yes, we want to get it right. We get a lot right, though, but we want to get it right. We want to get it righter.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. Recently, you joined Nassau University Medical Center employees, led by Interim Chief Executive Megan Ryan, in Albany to help seek state funds to help fix the hospital's budget issues. I've spoken to a couple of legislators about, and it just seems the optics are terrible. That hospital is probably one of the only ones that really it deals with more of the population and more of the uninsured population. And they don't turn people away.
Nope.
You come to the emergency room, they take you. So which one is failing? Well, the one that the people use.
Yeah.
Not the one that can charge you $200,000 for some radiation thing or so. It's the one that's doing the nuts and bolts. And as citizens of Nassau County, oh, okay, that's just par for the course.
NUMIC is a very interesting space, and I want to say that I find it to be an incredible space. I love the proximity that the community I serve lives to the hospital. They have 2 helipads, so if the president's ever here, his helicopter could land there, and he can be seen for treatment. And they do amazing work with our first responders. The Trauma One Hospital, their burn unit. I believe they have like the only water birthing maternity center. Yep. So there's a lot that's amazing there. But again, I have to say, politics is very involved in pretty much everything, right? From education to healthcare.
Sadly. Yeah.
And I do feel like the hospital is doing incredible work with a lot of the suggestions that have come from the state, and just ensuring that, people there a lot of them are underinsured or uninsured, but ensuring that we capture information so we can receive payment, things like that, things that may or may not have fallen through the cracks with all of the changes and the pressures. But I could not imagine what it must feel like to go to work every day and feel like it will close. I mean, I guess after a certain point, maybe they stop listening. I don't know. But I've spoken to employees, and it's that part of it.
Yeah.
It's not great. But I'll tell you, I went undercover to the emergency room with my daughter who had an ear infection. And she's 9, and it was her first ear infection. Very interesting. And I said, you know what? I want to go have a customer experience at NUMIC. I want to know what it's like. So I went there, and no one knew who I was. It was 2 a.m. And when I tell you she had the best experience from the second we came in and we checked in, the nurse, the doctor, we had a team member cleaning. Everybody was beautiful to her, to the point where she said, I would like to come back to this emergency room. I said, no, you don't. Yeah, right. And I will say this, I got a bill immediately after for my emergency room copay. And it made me feel really great because it's one thing to hear what's going on. I like to see and experience things through my own lens because sometimes the lenses are very dirty and cloudy, you know, and
nothing like firsthand information.
Definitely not. And I just to know how much the hospital supports the local businesses there. They support the employees. It's such an important institution that in an ideal world, I would love to see them not just sustained, but able to thrive. Like where we no longer here. We can talk about this in the past. Like remember when NUMIC was closing every day? And I really want that. I want that for everyone that works there. I want that for everyone who's fought to save the hospital. And I definitely want that for my constituents. These constituents, they need it. A lot of our constituents use the emergency room as their primary care.
Yeah.
It would break my heart if they went to a hospital. They had no other hospital to go to, and they went to a hospital and they were refused or turned away. And I'm not saying I know of any instances like that, but I know how a lot of my constituents are treated outside of our direct communities, and I don't want that experience for them in healthcare. It's just very daunting. So anything that I can do, my colleagues and I, the hospital sits in John McElwain's district, who is a friend and colleague of mine, and he is a staunch supporter. He's a fighter for that hospital.
I don't think we can afford to lose that hospital.
No, we cannot. And I'm just really, really grateful to have colleagues who, again, like you said, that special word, they're compassionate and they care. They're human first. And we're going to keep fighting to make sure that the state and everyone else does what they need to do for that hospital.
Right. And can you believe it? We blew through a half hour already. I know.
We only spoke about 3 things.
So many other things.
Half an hour went by in 10 minutes. You're so great at this.
Oh, you had plenty to say, which is good. But you have to promise to come back.
Yes, I'm 100% willing. Now that I know where it is, I'm coming back. This was awesome.
Well, thank you again. My guest today has been New York State Assemblywoman Taylor Darling, who represents the 18th District here on Long Island. And again, we want to thank you for taking the time to be here to speak with us today about these important issues. And good luck in your race for the Democratic nomination in the 6th Senate District in the June 25th primary.
Thank you so much. This was a pleasure, and it was my honor. I look forward to being here again.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Well, the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. I'm Bill McIntyre. Remember, you can listen to us by searching for this week's Long Island News wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're right here on the radio every Friday at 3 p.m. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.